RC Bhargav to discuss all that and more. Mr. Bhargav, good morning and thank you for waiting patiently. We have our guest editor Aditya Narain with us, so he will quiz you in a bit as well. But before that, let me open the conversation by asking you about the growth trends that we've seen. It's been all guns blazing for Maruti Suzuki, but in the month gone by, even the mini car segment has seen a very good growth of 30%, and that is contrary to some of the statements that you yourself have made in the past, where you said that demand is slowing down in some of these credit-sensitive pockets like the mini segment. Is it just for Maruti that things are looking good because of specific products, or do you think as a whole the situation is improving in the sector?
No, the situation on the whole has not improved at all significantly.
Okay. Because
the numbers which you see and which you report in the press and on the media are all wholesale sale numbers. And the wholesale sale numbers do not reflect accurately what's happening at the level of the retail customer. And if you look at retail sales, Maruti's retail sales themselves have been in single digits. And if you exclude Maruti from the rest of the industry, the growth is virtually absent in retail terms. So it's difficult to say that so far there has been any real pickup of consumer demand. It's possible that now with the festival season starting, we may see a retail pickup, because all these wholesale sales have resulted in inventory build-up in anticipation of good retail sales during the festival season.
Okay. Morning, Mr. Bhargava. Well, this is a bit of a reality check because the auto sales numbers, the wholesale numbers which we saw at the end of the previous month or at the start of this month were giving us a feeling that things are turning finally. Give us some color on rural and urban. Is it that any of these pockets are worse than the other or better than the other?
No, the sales are happening in both areas as far as we are concerned. And the rural sales are not any different from what they've been in the past. And the urban has also shown a little pickup. I'm talking now in wholesale numbers.
Okay.
And that's why we have managed in wholesale terms something like 13% growth in the previous, 5 months. But the retail sales are slow, but in both segments, rural and urban.
Good morning, Mr. Bhargava. So you are, in some senses, a veteran of many of these economic cycles or all of the economic cycles that we have seen. Could you give us your perspective in terms of how you see the entire, the demand cycle for four-wheelers actually coming back? What is the kind of time frame you think it will effectively take, for the industry as a whole to be on a stronger footing? Because the market has been quite excited by the wholesale numbers that we've effectively seen, but you've been a little bit more cautious on that. So some senses really digging back into the many years you've seen the auto market in terms of how you expect this to effectively play out. I might add that we were speaking with a large road developer prior to this, and they are actually seeing double-digit volume traffic growth on some of the highways that they actually run. So it's interesting to see that there does seem to be some activity, but your perspective in terms of how this will actually play out.
Well, actually, every year there is a build-up of inventory with dealers before the beginning of the festival season. And as you know, the festival season starts in the south in Kerala with Onam, and then it goes on to Maharashtra with Ganesh Puja, and in Tamil Nadu, and then it comes north. And so the period up to about November is all festival season in some part of the country or the other. And because of difficulties in peaking production only in short periods, we try and spread out the production more or less evenly and build inventories to take care of the higher retail demand which is expected during the festival season. So while I have been cautious about the numbers so far, but I'm also hoping that during this festival season which is now starting, we will see a pickup in retail sales. the overall projection which we had made in the beginning of the year, that we as Maruti will get into double-digit sales and the industry as a whole will be around 6-7%. I think that number still is reasonably accurate. I think it will happen.
Okay, Mr. Bhargava, what triggers demand? Do you think a couple of rate cuts will help, or do you think that when the seventh pay commission is announced and that's upon us? All right, I think Mr. Bhargava will not be able to hear us. There is a telecommunication disconnect here. But we will try and get back to Mr. Bhargava in just a minute.
Let's take one look at the markets before that.
It's improved.
Been flat, but yes, it has recovered from the lows of trade. But there are some large caps which are under pressure, and IT is on top of that list. So Infosys, HCL Tech, etc. are stocks that are down almost about 2% odd. And on the flip side, it is pharma stocks that are doing exceptionally well with Lupin and Sun Pharma. But just coming back to the point that Lata was asking Mr. Bhargava about the 7th pay commission. The 6th pay commission, when it came out, it resulted in higher salaries and better spending. Yeah. You think the 7th pay commission would lead to the same?
I think it will have quite a significant impact. I do, however, believe that the 6th pay commission, in some sense, the economic impact was kind of unanticipated or unexpected. This time there is going to be a build-up towards, expectations. So I think in that context, it might not be as much of a multiplier for the market because it's going to factor in a little bit. But I think this business of spreading the wealth, as it were, I think people look forward to it. Because they are government servants, there isn't that tendency to save simply because of, sureness. You have pensions, it's the sureness of the job. Okay. But I think it will have a positive impact, but, there's going to be a lot of build-up into it. If I go back, there was no build-up. It was, fiscal stimuli, as they called it later.
Okay. Mr. Bhargava, before we got disconnected, what I was asking you is what might improve? There are a couple of events slated down the road. We should expect a couple of rate cuts. We should expect interest rates to fall meaningfully for the borrower. As well, there is the 7th pay commission announcement next year. Will these be big movers of demand?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I had missed part of what Aditya Narain was saying because we got cut off. But as I see it, that the pay commission, even the last time around, did lead to much higher sales from the government employees. But the pay commission doesn't have too much impact on sales outside the government employees. And I think that will happen again when the 7th pay commission recommendations come out and the arrears, if they are to be given, are actually disbursed to the government servants. But besides the festival season, I also expect that the number of new launches which have happened and which are going to happen in the rest of the year will also be drivers of higher retail sales, whether it is the Hyundai product, whether it's our product, our new products which are still to come later in the year. I think all of these will keep the momentum of sales going in the second half of 15-16. And that's why I remain optimistic that the figures for Maruti will be in double digits and for the industry will be at least around 6 to 7%.
All right, Mr. Bhargava, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for your comments. So there's some amount of cautious optimism that we're getting from the Maruti management. But we've run out of time on the show. In fact, we've exceeded time. So let's get some final comments from you. You have a 35,000 target on the Sensex by the end of June 2016. Yeah. So you continue to be very optimistic.
We do. As I said, everything we've heard today actually suggests there's some kind of bottoming out, some activity happening. And I think a lot of the newer activity that is happening, whether it is payments, banks, whether it is FM licenses, whether it is these coal mine auctions, I think there is a certain amount of new business activity that is beginning to happen. I think most importantly, it is very rational. So as I said initially, there are not going to be any excesses. You're not going to get hockey stick growth, right? But what you will get is sensible investment, sensible returns. And I think for businesses, I think it will actually work out very well. And that should translate into a stronger market.
All right. Thank you very much. But let's end this conversation with the other big man who holds the destiny of the cost of the rupee itself, the Reserve Bank Governor Raghuram Rajan. also spoke about the developments he will watch out for on the inflation front and